So I've used almost every single camera under the sun, whether that's a cinema camera or mirrorless cameras. And for some reason, I keep going back to this little mirrorless camera that wasn't even made for cinema professionals. But this one feature is the reason why I keep coming back. Because I don't know if you're anything like me, but you might lay in bed and you're just thinking about what you can do with your setup, or you're watching YouTube videos and you get GAS, which is gear acquisition syndrome. And when I was pondering on how I can make my setup better or just have something new in general, because sometimes I like freshening things up, I couldn't leave this camera for that one reason. And the one reason I'm gonna talk about today is the open gate. This is why I'm staying with this camera, because I am a working professional. I do this for a living. I do larger production shoots as well as social media content. And there are a few strategic reasons why open gate is why I'm sticking with this camera, because that's just one feature. But when I really think about it, that's the reason why I am still shooting with Lumix cameras, specifically the S5 II and the S5iix. I also have an S9. And anyways, if you're new here, my name's Anthony and welcome to my YouTube channel where we talk about filmmaking gear, tips, and different ways on how you can make more money as a video professional. If you do like this content, make sure you subscribe. And with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. So the Lumix S5 II, if you're new to this channel, I have talked about this camera a good bit. I actually purchased it right when it came out, which I think was April 2023. I can't remember, but we're getting close to 2 years now, which is the longest time I personally had a camera. Normally I switch pretty quickly because I either get bored or I want something out of a different system. We all just want the perfect camera. And just like the S5 II has been pretty consistent in my production company for close to 2 years. Audio has been a long-term part of my business. I think when I first started, literally the first commercial I ever made, I used audio specifically because I had an offer for $300 off. I think lifetime music was like $500. So I only paid $200 for lifetime royalty-free music. Audio is doing the same thing where they are having a $200 offer. I think it's $199 for lifetime royalty-free music. Thank you to Audio for sponsoring this video. We only took them as a sponsor because we have been using them. So like we've been using them for the longest time already. If you are interested in starting an audio subscription, which I highly recommend, the links are down below. Let's get back to the video. I shot with Sony cameras about, let's say like 3 years ago. And I got really into anamorphic content while still needing autofocus at the same time. So I actually ended up trying the S1iix, which was an incredible camera. It had all these video features that I wasn't used to because I was shooting with Sony. I didn't have shutter angle. I didn't have all this stuff that was tailored to video within my camera, but actually using it was incredible. The image quality, the actual video features, all this stuff was really, really cool, but the autofocus sucked. And I couldn't have that. There are other cameras like the Z-Cam and some higher end cinema cameras that do have full frame open gate, but the S1iix just made sense because it had autofocus. Unfortunately, the autofocus really sucked, so I couldn't use it. I ended up selling the camera, but I always missed having that camera. Fast forward a year and a half later, I bought the S5 II. It had decent autofocus and it had the open gate, IBIS, all that stuff. I ended up falling in love with everything about the camera. The image quality, the usability, literally everything about the camera, so much so that I now have 3 Lumix cameras and my Ronin 4D, which is an L mount. So I've completely switched over to L mount because of this camera, which is kind of wild to think because it's an intermediate camera. It's not really high end. It doesn't even have full frame 4K 60, which some people doesn't matter. For me, it absolutely does matter because I don't want to deal with a crop. I know my framing, I know my focal lengths. I don't want to deal with a crop. I don't want to have to zoom out. I'm not doing that. So 4K 60 is kind of annoying. But yeah, you'll see in my work that the quality wasn't lacking, or at least I think the quality wasn't lacking, but I was left wanting more. So when cameras like the C80 came out that have basically everything I could ever ask for, or the C400, which has even more than I could ever ask for, that I really did want to go into that system. I ended up having hesitations and I didn't know exactly why. And while I was laying in bed contemplating doing that little gear acquisition syndrome thing, I realized it's because of the open gate. So I did want to talk about it because it is special to the Lumix S5 II, although other cinema cameras have it. This is the only camera on the market that has pretty decent autofocus while at the same time having full frame open gate. And there is a huge difference between micro four thirds open gate, which open gate just means shooting the whole sensor, and full frame. I'm not gonna go into that, but there is a huge difference. Even shooting APS-C open gate, it's not really an achievement when you look at full frame open gate because you have way more sensor area. Now, I'm not going into it, but it is incredibly useful and appealing to me having full frame open gate. This is the only camera that I can shoot with those full frame anamorphics, and then in the same day if I want to, which won't really happen, I can shoot corporate content that heavily relies on autofocus because I am a single operator most of the time, or I have an assistant or second shooter that's not gonna be operating a camera. So that reason alone is why I'm still shooting with this camera over many different cinema cameras. The C80's $5,500 option, the C400, but I'm sticking with this camera for that specific reason. The second reason, which you've probably heard about this, if you're on YouTube, you do any kind of social media, anything, but it's the fact that I can repurpose content. I could shoot it vertically while at the same time have that vertical resolution. And I didn't think that was a huge deal until I needed it. And now I use it literally all the time for all my clients. I can provide value in the sense of, hey, I can also make a vertical version for you and I don't have to shoot it twice. I don't need to use my manpower or my time on the production day to actually flip my camera vertically. I can shoot it like this. I have frame markers. I have all those different things. So those two reasons alone are the reasons why open gate is so important to me. And open gate is the reason why I'm shooting with this camera. Well, it's open gate in the fact that it has autofocus that's usable, because the Z-Cam has it, Arri Alexas have it. There are many different cameras that can shoot open gate, not a ton, but I wanna share what I wish this camera had and maybe what the next iteration will have and why. So I do wish it had at least open gate 48 frames per second because I'd love to slow down anamorphic footage. Or if I am shooting vertical and horizontal, I wanna have the option to slow it down. You know, so 6K 60, 6K 48, whatever the heck, I would love that in this camera. Internal NDs, I don't see that being an option, to be honest. If it is, you guys are geniuses at Lumix and you're just gonna destroy the market. But I don't see that being a thing. Everything else about this camera is pretty solid. I would love a whole revamp on the menus, because the menus, I'm sorry, Lumix, they suck. I don't want to use harsh language like that because for some people they work. Like for my friend Matthew Danyu, it works. They're super confusing. Even when I ask Matt about these different things, and he's been shooting with Lumix forever, we usually get on like a 15-minute phone call to figure out where one setting is. And that's not normal. That should never happen, especially on set. That's very frustrating. So a whole revamp. Sony did it, I think, like 4 years ago when they came out with their A7S III. I would love to see actual Sony level autofocus, because it's not. Lumix, please don't think that it is, because then you just won't improve. If you think you're already there, you're not there, unfortunately, but you're really close. So tracking would be great. Across the board, my audience has been asking for tracking. They agree. Most people, there are a few outliers that are like, I don't need tracking. And I question their professionalism because it's so freaking useful having that. But there's that. I would love to see that S1H flippy screen, the one where it like tilts, rotates, and flips vertically. There's really not that much else. Obviously, dynamic range boost would be nice. I really don't need that much more. Like one stop would be freaking incredible. But other than that, oh my gosh, you know what would be really amazing, which I just thought about this now and I don't know if it's even possible. Definitely make a box camera, but to have an integrated monitor, like the Pyxis, the fact that that thing has basically an integrated monitor is one of the reasons why I'm actually gonna buy one. It was gonna get sent out, but it was taking way too long. So I'm just gonna buy it myself so I could make some content for you guys, and I have some projects that I'm looking forward to use the Pyxis on. Anyways, if this content is interesting at all, or if you are interested in the future Pyxis content, make sure you subscribe. Comment down below if you guys have any questions whatsoever, or if you disagree with me, because I'm petty and I like, answering to the comments where you disagree. Yeah, I think that's it. Just like the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm glad to be back. I haven't made a video in forever. I will see you guys in the next one with my whole desk setup thing video that I've been meaning to make for like 3 months, but that's it for this one.